Welcome, and nice to see a large crowd here wanting to learn about the honeybees. By the way, this is about my 15th library that I'm speaking to across the state. I did a talk in Athol. It kind of got on to the web and into modern media, and before I know it, the next day I was getting 30 or 40 calls from libraries all across the state to do the same presentation in honey tasting. So this evening here, we try to give you a real good overview of the honeybee, what's happening to the honeybee, and also give you a little information about the products of the honeybee that they produce for us. So at the end of the evening, the climax will be to taste 15 different honeys back there, and there's some candle rolling that Lindsay will be instructed if you want to make yourself a little roll candle, burn it with some nice honey wine at one of your evening meals, then that would be the perfect evening for you. So you'll be open to do both back there. So let me start off by saying, like I say, I've been beekeeping all my life. I grew up with it, 6 generations, my grandfather, great-great-grandfather, all the way to the 1840s back in Poland. I was a school teacher, 38 years, retired from Northbridge High School, and I did bees during the summer months. It kind of worked out well. My honeybee, my 120 hives that I'd run during the summers, and during the school year when there's less amount of work on the honeybees, I dealt with coaching and teaching. So it was kind of a good combination to do both. And I've seen the scope of honeybee change over back in the 50s and 60s and 70s even. Honeybee or beekeeping was a far different hobby than it is today. It takes a lot more work, a lot more understanding to be able to keep your honeybees alive. And like Lindsay mentioned, you probably read about it and heard about it, we're losing 30 to 40% of our beehives each year. Now obviously we can't sustain that over the course of too many years without having the honeybees become extinct. Because if that happens, most of you probably know, 40% of our food crops are pollinated by the honeybees. And there would be food shortages, because this isn't just the United States, it's all over the world. It's happening worldwide. In northern China, where with Dr. Liu, part of the Harvard study that I've been doing with Dr. Liu from China, he's a Chinese professor at Harvard, they lost their bees in the northern quadrant of China. There are no honeybees. They're hand pollinating apple trees with brushes. It takes one person 7 hours to pollinate an apple tree, whereas a hive of honeybees can do it in 7 minutes. Wow. So here in the United States, it would be not financially feasible to hand pollinate, because your price of an apple would be $7. And as a result of that, it wouldn't be feasible. So the honeybees are being lost at a great, and with many studies I'm involved with too, the Harvard study and the USDA study, to try to find out, we're trying to find out what is happening to the honeybees. One factor, it's probably multiple factors that are interrelated, and we're trying to focus in. I know Dr. Liu has been doing an outstanding job in the lab. His team at Harvard there, I'm just a beekeeper. I'm not a PhD scientist. I go into the lab with Dr. Liu and look at DNA, and it's just over my head, with those Harvard professors. So anyway, I've been helping out the honeybees by doing all the field studies. I run all the hives for Harvard. I ran all the hives for the USDA during their 4-year study, and then the scientists take over, and in the laboratory they're trying to find those micro causes that are causing all of this. I can see what's happening out there, and it saddens me to think that the honeybee is such a hard-working insect, and yet they're helpless, because the feral colonies out there are all gone. You find a bee tree here or there, but they're no more. Back in the 50s when I started beekeeping, there were bee trees all over. We used to find bee trees throughout the woods, bees buzzing in and out. Nowadays, you might find one or here or there, or it might be somebody's swarm that came from a beehive that is managing bees and went into a bee tree. It might last a year, maybe 2 years, and then it perishes. So we're being challenged. But anyway, beekeeping it's a challenging hobby now, but it's such a rewarding one. When you get into a beehive and look into that beehive, you forget about everything around you. You're so focused not hurting the bees, just not squeezing them, not crushing them, and you're so focused that you forget about your problems, your stress. I got the one of the psychiatrists at UMass came out with me one day a couple of years with my bees, working my bees, and I said to her, "What do you do for a living?" She says, "I'm a psychiatrist at UMass." I says, "Oh, did they send you out to see if I'm nuts or not?" And she said, no. She says, "This is so distressing." She said, "You don't realize, psychiatrists, the problems they hear, it's such stress." She said, "Here, I forget about everything. When I get into the beehive, I just focus in this little micro world, watching them do their dances, watching them feed their young, watching them clean the house, watching them bringing in water." It's just a fascinating hobby. And today with the challenges, you have to be educated as a beekeeper to be able to keep your bees alive. And I'm challenged. As long as I've been beekeeping, I'm being challenged to keep my beehives alive because we don't know, what is it? Is it the mites? Is it pesticides? Is it viruses? Is it a combination of all these factors? Is it crowded out fields that used to have all flowers and fields are now built up neighborhoods and just not enough forage? So we're looking at all of that in the studies, and hopefully we'll come up with an answer shortly. But let me tell you a quick bee story. This is my favorite bee story. How many beekeepers in here? Anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4. Good. Then you're all going to have a bee story. If you haven't been keeping bees long, you're going to have a bee story to tell. But my favorite bee story happened way back in 1981. That's still my tops. And I was out there checking my friend's bees. There were 2 rows of beehives, 4 in the front, 4 in the back. Here I am, you know how it is, focused in there, looking at the bees, looking what might be wrong. Is the queen there? Does she lay an eggs? So I'm in there so focused. And with 8 hives on a nice sunny day, you hear the roar coming in and out, bees coming in and out. And all of a sudden, thinking nothing of it, then all of a sudden I hear a louder roar. And I got my t-shirt on and a veil. I work in a t-shirt. And all of a sudden, I'm looked around, and I felt the weight on the back of my veil, and I see the bees all swirling around behind me. I knew exactly what happened then. I knew it was a swarm that came out. The queen landed on my veil, and 30,000 bees followed her. And this was up in Athol, and all of a sudden, I'm there by myself. I was checking for my friend, his bees. He's not home. So here I am with 30,000 bees on my veil. The queen's there. And I couldn't find, everything's locked up, I couldn't find a cardboard box. So I crossed the street like this. I didn't want them to fall off on the road because cars run over, they'd kill 10,000 at a time, running over them, crush them. So I walk over to the house next door, knock on the door. A little Ukrainian woman, short, 4'10", and she came to the door. She slammed the door and she ran inside. Well, I didn't know what to do. I knocked one more time. Well, all of a sudden, she comes to the door rushing. She had a babushka on, had a broom. She's ready to save my life. And this lady, she'd call the police, call the fire department up there. That time, the police cruiser came up. The fire department's getting their hoses out, ready to save my life. And I'm saying, no. They're not stinging you? They're not stinging you? No. They're docile. It's a swarm. I said, and the firemen, they're just amazed. All these bees walking all over me, and they're amazed. By that time, 10 or 12 cars stopped. Everybody's watching this spectacle. Me walking around with 30,000 bees. And at that point, I said, I might as well make a show of this. So she comes out with the cardboard box, big cardboard box. I asked her about this big. She emptied all of her knitting stuff out of the box and just to give me a box. So all of a sudden I get in, I jump up, take off the veil, shake it, take my t-shirt off, shake it. I'm brushing the bees. No, they're not stinging you? No. And of course, I got the queen with that first jolt in the box. I closed up the entire box, taped it, and then put all pencil holes all through the box for air. I put it in a nice shady spot. Everybody's watching there, amazed at this spectacle, and I put a note to Jerry. Here's your swarm of bees. You don't know what I went through to get this. I made the paper up there and everything, and so that's to this very day. And then last year, went to a community, and there was a swarm of bees that moved into the house. The neighbor next door in the Cambridge area they went to their pool in the back, left their screen door open in front. Neighbor down the street, 2 houses down, had a hive of bees. Well, you know what happened? The swarm of bees went right into the kitchen, right onto the globe fixture in the kitchen, and settled. Wow. They came around from their swim pool. All these thousands of bees going in and out, and they were freaked out. You can imagine nobody that don't keep bees. They're freaked out. All of a sudden, they closed the door, which was the worst thing they could have done. All of a sudden, all the field bees were going back and forth. I got called out. I said, Ken, you better get there. There's trouble. I went there. All these bees were like clouds out in front of the screen door. So what do? Is I went in. First thing I did is I opened the door. You're letting all the bees in. I said, I know. I says, give me time. You're going to get them out of here? Yes, I'll get them out. How long is it going to take you? Tonight at 8:30. We can't go into our house? No. I says, look, you can go in the living room, you can go to the bedroom. They just want to go to their queen in the swarm, and they may even leave by themselves. And so they're in the living room, and they couldn't wait. I got there at 8:30 just about. I took a little step ladder right under this globe fixture, and they says, during the whole day, they says, we can't eat. I says, treat yourself, go to a restaurant. And so I went in, and they were around the corner, all of them. I said, leave the lights on. They were all like this, just mystified. I went in, sprayed the bees on the light fixture. They were all tightly clustered, and I just put the big 5-gallon bucket, white bucket, right under the fixture, this close to it. I just took my bare hands and plop, closed the cover, and it's taken away. That's all there is to it? I said, that's it. They were totally amazed. But, you know, I know all the tricks to, spray them with sugar syrup that cause them, and then they just fell right in. I took it home, had a beautiful swarm of bees, and started a hive, and it's still going. So every beekeeper's got their stories. You're going to come across it when you've been keeping bees for 60-something years. It's going to come across where you're going to have one bee story or another, and it's an amazing hobby. So we're going to go inside the beehive here, and we're going to take a look at a beehive. And as you know, I've been keeping bees for a long, long time. And Dave Lucon found this oil painting in the archives of the Worcester County beekeepers of me right here at the parting of the seas with Moses. And you can see I have my veil, bee veil, right there. And after that event was over, I was going to head over to the beehives and work with them. So obviously you can see how long I've been keeping bees. But by all kidding aside, here you can see me at 5 years old, my dad, a mentor. He wouldn't let me wear long sleeves and gloves. He let me wear the veil, and that was my first hive he gave me. I was so proud. I never forget the moment I ran in. He said, "You're now 5." He says, because I was asking him. He said, "You can have your own beehive. I'll lift the stuff for you." We had a contest, and he got me really excited about beekeeping. So that was, it's on the cover, you'll see, of the cookbook. Worcester County Beekeepers honored me and my dad for over 100 years of beekeeping. They put us on the front cover of their cookbook, a lot of recipes of my grandmother's and my grandfather's, my dad's recipes there. So he was my mentor and taught me everything I know about beekeeping. When you go into a beehive, this is what you're going to see. 80,000 honeybees all looking up with 2 big brown eyes at you like this. looking at your two eyes, focused on them. It's immediate contact. It's the neatest thing. You take a bee smoker, you smoke them a little to divert their attention. You know, every beekeeper should have a bee smoker. He gets a little smoke going with pine needles, gives them a little just gentle smoke. They go down, gorge themselves with honey, thinking they have to leave because there's a fire. Meantime, when they see you're not hurting them, and they'll let you work for an hour. Anybody in Worcester County beekeepers knows. They call me the bee whisperer. The Boston Globe did an article a number of years ago, spent the whole day with me with these cameras right in the hive, and then titled it the Bee Whisperer. He didn't get stung, didn't wear the veil, and the whole day he was with me filming, and never got stung, and titled, and so now they call me the Bee Whisperer. They say, oh, you talk to the bees, you know what to say. Some say, oh, you put stuff on your hands and your arms to keep the bees from stinging you. And others just say, the guy's just plain nuts, you know. But anyway, those bees are looking up and you're looking at them. But if you work them gently and focus on what you're doing, don't crush them, you can open that hive and work for an hour and they won't touch you. On a nice day. They don't like to be opened in a rainy day or a really cloudy, cool day. Nice day, and you can work them all day. So that's what that's what it looks like. And inside that hive, it's the flurry of activity. There's nurse bees, and we're going to talk about some of the activity going on. And if you just take the time, nothing better when I'm out in the field there with my bees, and it's a nice day working them. I'm by myself and so focused, and I just spend time watching all these activities going on. It's amazing to me. If we could only work that well together, we'd be a better society for it. They work together. They don't, struggle with each other. And that beehive will forage in an area 3 miles in diameter. Now, it's a reciprocal relationship. Everybody probably knows the most important thing the honeybee does for us, pollinates our food. Well, guess what? They go that 3-mile area daily, flying back and forth. All the field bees, after they're 2 weeks old, they're hatched, and after 2 weeks in the hive, doing all the chores in the hive, they go out to the field and collect nectar and pollen. Those are the two foods they need to survive on. The nectar, which produces the honey, all that honey you see back there is all produced from the nectar of different flowers. They suck up that sweet nectar, and that's the carbohydrates for the adult bees. The pollen that they go and get from flower to flower is the high protein food that they feed their young. They chew up the pollen and the honey together. They make what we call bee bread. They add enzymes from their hypopharyngeal glands, it's a tough word to say, hypopharyngeal glands, and they add that to cure the honey, and you have a beautiful product, which we then tend to borrow, I should say steal from them. But that 3-mile area is where they go, and they know where to go. The flowers that give off the pollen, that give the nectar, and they're happy doing that. You can stand by the hive all day watching them with beautiful colors of pollen coming in, green, red, yellows, orange, black, all colors. When you see it in the hive, it's like a rainbow. I love to see the rainbow colors and all the different colored pollens. But this is their playground, I call it, where they get everything they need. And of course, they don't go out there and say, hey, look, we got to pollinate for man, he needs food. It's that they need the pollen and the nectar. And so they do it. Been doing it for thousands of years, and they're very adept at doing it. And you can see, they go from flower to flower. In this hive now, I'm going to share with you, there are 3 types of bees. 96% are worker bees. You're going to see them right here. Those are all females. They aren't able to get mated. And so they do all the work in the hive. They do all the foraging in the hive. They do everything. They work hard. They only live 6 weeks in the summer, the worker bees. They sacrifice themselves so that for the good of the hive. In 6 weeks, I see them out there, their wings are tattered. Rather than dying in the hive, causing the other bees trouble to have to carry them out, they're out there dying out in the grass by themselves. It's so sad. Working 6 weeks, just dying for the good of the hive. And so the worker bee is 95%. It's a matriarchal society, by the way, because the next category to be in there is the drone. These are the males, big, bulky, big compound eyes. They don't do anything. They sit back, it's like a boys club on the sides of the hive. Honest to God, they don't do anything. They're there for one purpose. When there's a new queen that has to be mated, then they come into play. They go after the queen on a mating flight and mate with it, 5 to 15 of them. And she's mated for life. So their role is important in a sense for the perpetuation of the species so the queen can lay fertile eggs. Otherwise, the hive would die out with unfertile eggs. So they do play, but there's only about 4% of them. And guess what? The sad part, come October, the females, the worker bees, kick all the males out into the cold, and they're cold morning, cold nights, and they're trying to fight their way in. 2 or 3 workers tug at them. They won't let them back in. Said, you didn't eat? You didn't work? You're not going to eat and waste our food over the winter. Out you go. My wife said that's the way it should be in a human society. You know, so anyway, and of course the queen. She's the lifeblood of the hive. 12 to 1,500 eggs a day. She just lays and lays and lays. Imagine if a chicken farmer could have a chicken producing 1,200 eggs a day. That everybody want to be chicken farmers. But 12 to 15, she stops for short periods and then continues 24 hours a day with short stops so that she can rest. She has a court of bees that take care of, groom her, feed her. They do everything for her. And she just lays eggs, an egg-laying machine. And here you can see some of the activity in the hive. If you were to look up close, isn't she cute? This is the worker. These are worker bees. Look at the big brown eyes. Aren't they gorgeous? Looking up at you. Look at the blonde hair. The sleek-looking body. This is the house bee. This is the house bee right here. This is the field bee. The house bee, they have long tongues like straws. The house bee sucks the nectar that the field bee brought back and deposits it in the cells. So here's how young bees and older bees work together in the hive. The young bees do all the stuff in the house. That field bee can get right back out, collect more nectar, bring it back. So it's a reciprocal relationship with young and old in that hive. Here's a guard bee at the entrance. You can see fanning, see that little gland there, the Mazanoff gland? They release a scent. All the bees in that hive smell the same. In other words, if you were to smell the bee in that hive, they all smell the same. We can't smell at that level that they do. Their senses are so delicate. They smell. So they fly back to the hive, guided by the sun, direction and everything. They get close to the hive. Those guard bees are fanning the scent of their hive. So as they get close, they know if there's a row of 5 hives, they know which one is theirs, and they will be guided by the scent when they're close. And they just lumber in. They fly in, they're so loaded with nectar or pollen, they just lumber in, and if another bee tries getting in, see those guard bees going right after it, chewing at it, pulling at it, tugging at it, they won't let it in. They're not going to have somebody rob their hive after all the hard work that they've done. So these are the guard bees. Here's a house cleaning bee, cleaning out a little dead larva. Right here you can see, pulling it right out. They love clean atmosphere. Anything not dirty, or they'll take it right out, clean it up. And in other words, I once found a mouse at the bottom of the hive, got in, snuck in, couldn't get out because they stung it to death. Well, obviously it was too big to pull out. Well, they propolised that mouse. They couldn't get it out. They propolised it. Propolis is like a heavy bee glue that hardens up, and the mouse was like this in the hive. It was propolised, almost like embalmed, so it wouldn't smell and whatever. So bees have, they're great tact cleaning as far as cleaning the hive. Here you can see a water gatherer bee. Now Tom Seeley just did a study. I just read it, fascinating. He did over the last 2 years. Tom Seeley is a great bee scientist. I respect him probably of all bee scientists. He found in each hive, we never knew this before this past year, there are water gatherers. Their job is solely to go out to get water. The old bees, when water's needed in the hive, the old bees put out their tongues and hold them out there. And this whole group of water gatherers scurries out, especially during hot weather. And I watched it in the hive. He's accurate. I never knew that. I saw those tongues sticking out. I didn't know what that meant. Now Tom Seeley's study, he marked bees so he knew. And that's all they do. They go out, get water. Like any creature, they need water to survive. And what happens is they bring it back, feed for the young larvae they need it. They need it for the real old bees. They need it for cooling down the hive. This hot weather we've been having, humid, hot in there, what's happening is they need to cool down because the temperature of the hive is normally 93 degrees when they're rearing young bees. So when it gets above that, they need to cool it down. How do they do it? They bring water droplets, put it on the frames, then they fan, and they bring the temperature right down. In the wintertime, when they're brood rearing, if it's 20 outside, 93 in there. They eat honey, rub their thoracic muscles, and create the heat. That's why bees need a lot of honey for the winter. They eat that, and they just keep going, rubbing the thoracic muscles. And in that cluster, it is 93 degrees. I got a thermometer. Part of the USDA studies, we had $3,000 scale and all these probes and sensors that we put in. 93 degrees in that cluster, and one day it was 5 degrees outside. Wow. How do they do that? Little insects. Amazing creatures that they can heat up the hive or bring the temperature down when they need to so the young bees don't suffocate over 95 degrees in the hive. They can't get it over. So this water gatherer is an important part of the whole picture in the hive. And I never knew that. I'm now, as I go into my hives, I see it with this hot weather. And of course, there's a close-up. Isn't she a cutie? And of course, here's the little gland. They spread that smell. It's called a pheromone. That keeps the smell. It's the queen that spreads that pheromone. And of course, there's a nurse bee. This is fascinating to watch. The nurse bees go in, chew up pollen and honey, and then they feed all those little larvae that are yearning to grow and eat. Look at a little larva, look at a big one, look at a real big one. They grow and fast. In the 5 days that they're growing before they're capped over, they eat a lot of honey and pollen. That's that bee bread that we were talking about. That's why they need pollen and honey for those two. And the nurse bee goes right in there, feeds them. You see the nurse bees taking care of the young. They hover over the young to keep them at 93 degrees so it doesn't chill them and they don't die. It's a whole little society. And now we come to the drone. So all that work's being done by the workers. Here's the mighty masculine drone. Lumbers around like this. And of course, he's waiting because once a year, hives swarm, they produce new queens. He's going to be needed. So, but until then, he eats, enjoys life, kicks back. And of course, there's the queen. She's the lifeblood. You'll probably be able to find her in the observation hive. She's bigger than the rest of them by a long abdomen. She goes into each cell. Here you can see the court. See with the white dot we've got on her? And the court around her. They groom her, they feed her, they do everything to her. She just lays eggs. And there she is with her head in the cell to see if it's polished, if it's clean. If it's not six-sided, it's been misshapen, she won't lay an egg. If there's wires showing down below, she won't lay an egg. Sometimes you see all these empty spots right across because the wire wasn't embedded. And so you see that. Here she is. And of course, here she is. This is a rare photo. My good friend of mine who was a teacher took this one. I pulled the queen out. And I caught her just as she was laying an egg out of the ovipositor. This is magnified, by the way. Picture a thread. You know what a thread, how thin a white thread is? That's how thin the egg is. It's 1/80th of an inch. It's like a rice grain, but much thinner. And that egg is laid, and in 21 days it becomes a bee.
Where is the egg?
The egg, yeah, the egg is right here.
Oh, okay.
As I pulled the queen out to get the picture, she was just laying the egg. I just got her as it was coming out of the ovipositor.
But does it go into that cell?
Yeah, it was going to go in that cell. Now, here in 3 days it hatches into a little larva. See it? We pulled it out. I pulled it out with tweezers. And look at all the eggs. 1,200 a day. Can you imagine? She's filling all those cells. They in 3 days they hatch into a little bit of tiny larva. See it? There's a day old. That's the first day it's hatched. There's 3 days old. They grow quick. When they're fed royal gel, not royal gel, but bee bread, they grow quick.
So it's 1 egg per cell?
1 egg per cell. Each cell is 6-sided. You notice, look at how symmetrical they are. It's the strongest known geometric shape to man, 6-sided, intertwined.
And did they make that, or did you?
They make it. They build it. We give them a wax foundation to speed it up, but they can build it without us. They'll build it without us. It takes them longer.
So
we help them out.
But you said you had wire in there.
Huh?
You had wire.
Yeah, there's wires, and so if it's not pushed in good, then she won't lay an egg on it. But here you can see 5 days old, and then they cap it over, and it turns into a pupa. And that's what becomes an adult bee under the cappings. And in 21 days from the time the egg is laid, you can see the little bee chewing its way out, just like a chick pecking its way out of the shell. It works so hard. I watch them. And for the new beekeepers, I'm out there. Sometime we get in our Worcester County beekeepers, I'll go out, help them out, and I take tweezers. I go, uh-oh. And a new beekeeper, what's wrong? What's wrong? I say, shh, I don't want to do any brain damage with the tweezers. And I pull away the little cappings, and then all of a sudden, I take the little tweezers and pull the bee out, and I say, it's a girl. Oh, how do you know that? I said, they're all girls, the worker bees. But some thinking something else, you know.
Could you go back?
How'd you figure out she's a girl? Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
She's wet, and see the little hairs, all wet. She just came out, little brown eyes, little Susie I called her. And little blonde hairs, tiny, and within a half hour she's to work. She's doing work in the hive. Dries off, the other bees all touch her with their mandibles, make her feel part of the welcome, and she's off to work. She knows already what to do. It's instinctive. It's amazing to see how they go right to work. I've watched on a frame. I've watched the whole bee from the time they're born. The most amazing thing is when I take them out like that, that first breath, and their wings flex. Oh, that is the most beautiful. It's like a miracle. They take that first breath and that flexing of the wings, and I've delivered more babies than any obstetrician. So you can see the little bee, 21 days through the whole cycle. It takes 21 days. And of course, to keep feeding all these 1,200 bees each day, it takes a lot of honey, a lot of pollen, and a lot of chewing for the nurse bees to do all this work. So they have to keep bringing honey back, nectar back, I should say, and pollen. Here you can see a bee, they've got these long tongues. They stick it into the nectar to suck up that nice, watery, sweet substance. And what they do is they then bring it back to the hive, and you'll see here in a minute. And the other thing they're bringing back, they go around collecting the pollen. They go from flower and flower, cross-pollinating for us. Little do they know they're doing this for us, but they need it. And see how they put it into their pollen baskets? Here you can see a pollen basket. See all the little tiny grains in their hairs? They take their tassels, and you can see them. They pull it out and put it right in the pollen basket. Amazing how they do that. They got such flexibility, and they put it right into their pollen basket. And this one, look at all the little, it had too many. The pollen baskets here were so full, no more room. The bee flies back with all the little grains of pollen all over it. And we'll do it in the hive. By the way, the pollen in these two baskets is the weight of the bee itself. It'd be like you taking some of your weight, jumping off the ground. They're flying back would equal their own weight. It's just amazing how they can, thousands of times, they flex those wings and flying. That's why they're coming close. They got so much weight, they lumber in because it's so heavy. And sometimes they land on the grass in the front. It's hard for them to fly back up into the hive. because there's so much weight they're carrying, they want to get maximized. And they bring it back for the good of the whole colony. They just keep going back and forth. Once their wings are worn out, they don't trouble the rest of the hive, out they go, and they die. And here they pack the pollen in, see it, all in the cells, so not to waste space with those little, and you're going to see some pollen up here after, when you come up, observe at both ends here, you'll see they take their head, and you'll see this activity. They ram the head in there to pack it in tight so not to waste space. You'll see that activity in a hive. So all these things I'm telling you, you can open up a hive, and when you're peaceful by yourself, you'll see it, all these activities. It's so amazing. That's why I love the hobby. To my dying day, I know I'll keep bees. You know, I just love to see them working together. And they just keep going. Wherever there's pollen, wherever there's nectar, they're going to go there. And here's a bee, house bee that got nectar from the field bee and depositing it in the cells. See it right there? That's a very liquid, watery. Nectar is very watery, 80% water. And all night, they'll sit and fan. All the bees will fan like this, evaporating the extra water. And when that honey's thick enough and a concentrated, nice sugar, honey taste, they've added enzymes to it, they'll cap it over. You know, you'll see and I'll point that out when we get the lights on, so, talk about the table over there. And you'll see they'll cap it all over and store it for the winter, because they know up here in the northern latitudes you need 80 pounds of honey. 80 jars of honey is what they need to survive, and they need about 10 pounds of pollen. So they have to store it, because up here, December, January, February, and March, they're not going to get it. If they don't have it, they're going to starve. And you as the beekeeper, shame on you. That means you didn't leave them enough. You took too much. You were too greedy. And I tell all beekeepers, let your bees survive. Take less honey, let them have it for the winter. But a lot of beekeepers, I know everybody wants honey. Everybody, says, Ken in Worcester County there in our meeting, you think I'll get honey? I don't know. I says, depends on how greedy you are. If there's a little honey, you can take it, but the bees may not have enough. It's another way of thinking. And of course, they build with the honey, they need to build their wax comb. That's their nest. Like wasps and hornets chew wood, make it into pulp and build those paper gray nests. The honeybees take and eat honey, and they have wax glands on their abdomen that seeps out these little crystals of wax. They take and chew them and do the six-sided shell. You watch them doing that in the hives, that's amazing in itself. They put themselves into long chains, pull on each other to ooze those wax flakes out of the wax glands. And you see that, and oftentimes some will drop. You open a hive, and at the bottom of the hive there's all these little wax flakes. They drop them. They hate not to waste them, but sometimes they do, and you see those little flakes. But they build their comb. Naturally, they build in a sheath-like form. But man in 1850s learned to give them a wooden frame and said, look bee, build this shape. And the bees accommodate. Amazing. But if you don't give them a frame, guess what they're going to build? A round comb like this. But we give them the shape we want, and they build it. They're so cooperative. And this bee, looks a mean looking one there, huh? Her name was Samantha. She wasn't not happy that day, but she's bringing back, because she was assigned to bring back propolis. Everybody knows propolis, it's a bee glue. They get it from the resins, pine sap, poplar resin, resin from different bushes, plants. They get this sticky stuff it is. I get into a hive, you need a crowbar almost to get the hives, they glue everything up with this propolis. Well, recent research found that it's got antiseptic qualities. It helps in the prevention of bee disease in the hives. And so as a result, they bring this propolis back, and then they glue everything up. It's so gummy in the summer. In the winter, it's hard. And of course, for medicinal qualities, my dad used to give it for me to chew for sore throats. Fantastic. In Europe, that's what you find. They use propolis for medicinal purposes. Here we tend to not, with the pharmaceutical companies, not to push that so much. But for sore throats, I chew that. my dad, a little story, my dad, my sisters both got poison ivy real bad. Calamine lotion never worked. They never seemed to work back for the older ones that know calamine lotion. And so my dad made propolis and took a little vodka and made a tincture out of it. Spread it on the poison ivy. The next day, the poison ivy was gone. Went to Dr. O'Connor in our hometown. Oh, what'd you do? It was propolis tincture, he said. After that, Dr. O'Connor used to send all the people with bad poison ivy to my dad for propolis. For years, they would come. Now you can't because it's practiced in medicine and there's all kind of rules. But anyway, and if the hive goes well, bees produce a lot more honey than they need. You can see here, these are the 2 boxes where they raise their young, they store all their honey and pollen for the winter. Because they tend to stockpile, like most women do, don't they? Stockpile a lot of, actually, you got that instinct to, you know. So bees build all this extra honey here in these 3 boxes called honey supers. And guess what? We as the beekeeper goes in and we take these 3, we don't borrow them, we steal them because we never give it back to them. And that's what a successful hive would look like if nature cooperates. This spring has been one of the best honey producing years so far. But you know what? Now with the heat and the dryness, there's no nectar out there. Because the plants, to conserve energy, the heat and the dryness have caused stress. And the plants have closed up their nectaries, and all of a sudden, the bees can't get any nectar. They're not happy. They can't get nectar. But the plants are trying to survive as well. And so the beekeeper has to know enough that we've got to give them back some honey to feed them. Otherwise, they're going to die. One beekeeper already called me from Grafton, says, in our association, again, a friend says, I think my bees are dead. I don't know why. I went up there. The bees were all starved out. They died. I said, and I made the mistake, Sherry is her name. I won't give her last name. Some of you may know her, but she went there. She said, what is it? Is it pesticides? I said, Sherry, look at her little brown eyes looking up at you saying, why'd you do this to us? She says, what? I says, you starved them. Tears started rolling down. Oh, why? And I had to put my arm around. I felt so bad. I won't do that. She's only a 2nd-year beekeeper. But what happened, she took all the honey off from the super that was up there. They ate through everything and down in the brood chamber, and they starved. It only takes 3 or 4 days, and without food, it's like anybody. You know, you need food to survive on. And so, anyway, that's what a beehive. And then, the last part I'll present here is, once a year, bees have the tendency to spread their population, to divide. What they do is they build a peanut-sized shape, just like a peanut, about 2 to 3 inches long. And notice the outside of this, the outside of this is all, looks like the shell of a peanut. They build it, and in there they feed a royal jelly to the queen. So her female organs can develop, and so she can be impregnated and lay fertile eggs. Have sperm to be able to fertilize the eggs and lay so they can become workers instead of drones. Unfertile eggs become drones. And you don't want a bunch of drones, because you know what happens to the hive? It dies out. Nobody's doing any work. They're all kicking back, thinking it's going to be a good life forever. So there's what happens, and when the new queen, this new queen's going to hatch out, a few days earlier, the old queen takes half of the bees and swarms. How many have seen a swarm before? Yeah, many. Big 30,000 bees on the side of your house, go into a tree, go into any enclosed enclosure, or sometime build a cone on an open limb. Did anybody see, I had a call last winter, last December 5th. I taught school for 38 years. One woman put on Facebook, I don't get on Facebook or anything, but they put on, please somebody save the bees. They're on this limb exposed with all the wax comb, the snow came. So all my students, Mr. Watcher, you got to save the bees. They remembered me bringing bees in from years ago. You got to save the bees. I must have had 50 or 60 people email me. So all of a sudden I went out down to Linwood, and there 12 cones, bees, strong hive. What I did, and one of the cable stations filmed it. It got onto YouTube, but I cut the limb, I took the bees, I adapted a hive and set them all in, and I saved the bees. I had, thank you. You know what? I had emails from Indonesia, Malaysia, Japan, thanking me, and my students thanking me. All this, and 79,000 hits that one got. I couldn't believe 79,000 people saw that clip that was taken by Dave Lucon, and he put it on. I said, "Why'd you do that, Dave?" He said, "Well, Skyhook, the company that put us up for free, put me up in a bucket, got a lot of publicity, all of 79 hits, Skyhook Tree Company." But anyway, that's a swarm. They start a new nest, and that's the way bees repopulate themselves. And that's my dad. You know, it's back in the days when I was a beekeeper. It was all old white-haired guys like myself keeping bees. I'd be this little kid in amongst them. He said, "Oh, Sonny, you better be careful. You're going to get stung." And, you know, so I'd be out in the back. They'd be pushed out. All these guys saying, "I do it this way." "Oh, I do it this way, George." So finally one day my dad had me, without a veil and a t-shirt, open up a hive and explain what's going on in the hive. After that it was, "Oh, Ken, come right up front here. Come right up front here." A whole new respect for a little kid, you know, 8-year-old kid was when I did it. So anyway, my dad's from Poland, and the Polish colors, white honey hives and red supers. And here I am right here last year. You can see me. Back then I had, last year I had dark blonde hair, now I got light blonde. That was 1984 when I had the meeting at my house, and you can see we had 278 beekeepers show up to my house. My wife and my mother, who had meatballs and spaghetti and salad all planned for 100 people, all of a sudden, needless to say, they had to go to the grocery store and buy for triple. And we had to shuttle the people in from American Legion by vans to the house because the streets were so packed with cars. Everybody wanted to see how I kept my bees. But anyway, that's the members, and that's how you learn about beekeeping. You get into it by taking a bee school with the club, and then going to meetings and learning about how to keep your honeybees. Actually, it is the date, 1983. I was a year off. And learning about bees. Now, I'm going to go to the, if you could put the lights on. Now, the hobby of beekeeping has really spread. Last year at the Worcester County Bee School, we had 350 people. 280 started beekeeping. Everybody wants to help out. Most people they need pollination for their fruit trees or their gardens. They don't see any honeybees, so they get it for that. Others, they just love watching the bees. Some others, they want the honey. I want honey. Others, they do for bee sting therapy, sting themselves. Others, they want the honey for allergies. So there's a whole variety of reasons why bee people are getting into it. But now families are getting into it. You see the little children all taking part. They're painting up the hives and beautiful flowers on them and everything, not just plain white sterile hives. They spin the honey out together. They do the hobby together as a family. I go out and with these new beekeepers in Worcester County, and the whole family comes out. Little ones like this with bee suits, barely walking, and they're coming out with their bee veils. But, you know, you get a honey frame like this. There's nothing more beautiful than the wax-capped honeycomb. And what you do is, you know, the family gets together. They come ready to take the honey out. They take an uncapping knife. This is my dad's from 1949. The best knife. I still use this one. This is the best one. German steel, 1949 date, and I'm looking for another one on eBay. I haven't been able to find it. You uncap, gently uncap like paper, thin. Uncap the cappings off of here on both sides. Then we put it into a machine called an extractor, and we spin it. And the centrifugal force throws this beautiful stuff right out, and then right into a jar and bottle it. And the good thing about honey, you can feel this after, the good thing about honey, it comes in all different colors and flavors, from light to medium to dark to very dark, and all different tastes. You're going to have a chance to taste 15 different floral sources back there, honeys. And cleanse your palate when you do between tasting, and you'll see the delicate taste of all the different honeys that are labeled back there. About 7 or 8 of them are mine. It takes a lot of work to get specialized honey. And then the others come from Washington State, California, the deserts of Arizona. And just so you can see from all over the country the different honeys that you get. And so the honey as a hobby, but not only that, but the wax. The wax we get, that perfect, beautiful wax that they made, we make all kind of beautiful, candles out of it. Whether it be rolled candles, and some of you might want to try doing a little candle rolling back there and take home a little mini candle, something like this here that I have some of the students, when I do for the schools presentations, they let them roll these little candles, they take them home, and at dinner time the family lets it burn and get that beautiful fragrance. And then, you got all kind of molds you can make, little candles, little flowers, and wax comes in, darker colors a little bit, lighter colors sometime. And I just took this and I made this candle this past year. I saw my wife's little guppy bowl and the guppy in it, so I took it out, put it in a honey jar with the water, and she didn't even notice. And I took it, I poured wax, and I made this candle, this wax candle. And so then I slowly, gently said, "Look, Deb, I made a candle for you." And she says, "Well, how are you going to get it out of there?" I said, "With a hammer." And she said, "What about my guppy?" I says, "Well, we'll have to get you a new guppy bowl." But anyway, the wax, you can do with wax. Now the latest craze is hand cream, beeswax. People love it. This is the moisturizing cream. Try it after. These are, you can try them. This is moisturizing cream. My friend makes these, buys the wax from me, from all the wax. I have buckets and buckets of it with 120 hives. So he makes the moisturizing cream. He does this healing cream here. You got a little sore or something, a little burn, just wonderful, from beeswax. And then, of course, lip balm. This lip balm here, you can, did anybody try this? Oh, better not. Somebody might have tried it. Or the other thing is beeswax soap, beeswax honey soap. Smell this after, smell these. It's just wonderful. I use here's the one that I use. My wife does make these. The hand cream and the lip balm, we just don't have the time. We've got so many hives to spin honey out that we don't put the time into it. So making all these wax products is a family affair. The kids get involved with making this, and it's a great, great hobby. And then cooking with honey. Oh, if you haven't tried cooking with honey, you're missing something. In barbecue sauce, when you put on chicken and barbecue it, put honey into the barbecue sauce and bake it. Oh, wonderful. Recipes, I just telling some here the other day, I had strawberry shortcake the other day. I drizzled that nice spring honey I just extracted onto the strawberries. Then on the whipped cream, I drizzled some more of the spring delicate honey and sprinkled pollen on it. Oh, can't beat it. Then the other thing I had with it, and I love this, and again, I make a little, but my friend, another friend down in Blackstone makes it, honey wine. If you want to try wine, honey wine's called mead. Oh, just fantastic drink. You know, I'd give some samples. I'm afraid people get drunk and drive home. It's 15%. But it's a wonderful drink. It's a mead. And you can have dry mead. I can make sweet mead. Like with the strawberry shortcake, I had sweet mead with that strawberry and that combination there. So you can cook with honey, and a lot of people, breads, they stay moist for a lot longer because honey is hygroscopic. It absorbs moisture, and it stays fresh much longer with honey. You have to only use half the honey to the sugar. And of course, you know, things like my wife made apple butter, honey butter. on toast, fantastic. So cooking with honey now, more and more people are doing that. And also, the pollen is becoming quite popular. A lot of people for protein. You know, had a kid across the street, a neighbor's kid. He took 3 tablespoons of the pollen. He was hyper the whole day. It's a lot. It gives you a lot of energy. I take it, sprinkle it. I don't take that much, but I sprinkle it. I find it gives you that little extra energy that you need. So all of these things make up the hobby. It's expanded. I just made up some nice honeycomb this year. I cut some honeycomb, so a lot of people, not so much the younger generation, the older generation, I was used to growing up eating honeycomb. You know, taking a spoon and eating the honeycomb right out of the packages here. So I produce the honeycomb. And what you'll see here, just to explain lastly up here before I send you back there, the USDA study had to do with the Asian longhorn beetle and the tree injection in Worcester. So I was asked by USDA to run the 4-year study up there, directed as to the effect on honeybees. But that's what it looks like. They're little nasty. They were crawling over people at the baseball Little League game, and they finally found them in 2009. So we looked at that aspect. And then if you were to start beekeeping, here's how you do it. Just finally, and you say you want to stop beekeeping, you'd get a package of bees like this with 10,000 bees with a queen cage inside and the queen. And I've watched new beekeepers when they had to shake this into a hive. After 8 weeks of bee school, they get their package, they're looking at it like this. They're looking at 10,000 bees with a few hitchhikers on the outside, and they're taking it home, and I watch them. It's so funny. I says, would you do it, Ken? I says, I am not doing it. You will do this, and you'll have that experience the rest of your life. You'll never forget it. It's breathtaking. You take this, I tell them, you take, the queen's hanging in here with 10,000 bees. There's a wooden flap here. You take that off. Quick, you pull the queen out, you put the flap back in before 10,000 bees start flying out. Well, that's in itself. Then you got to put the queen in the hive, and the worst part that they'll never forget, you bang this box on the ground, and then quickly tip it over and shake. Just shake 10,000 bees into your hive. And they say, is that enough? I said, no, there's 100 more bees in there. How about now? No, there's 2 more up in the corner. And they never forget that experience as long as they live. That's the way it looks, exactly. How many had to do that in here? There you go. It's for the rest of your life. I did my first one at 5 years old. My dad let me do that when I got my hive. 5 years old, I never forgot that experience. It was fantastic. I was nervous because I'd never done it. I watched him do it, but when I had to do it at 5, and after that, it was nothing to it. Today, I do these without the veil, like when I shook the Harvard hives, no veil, nothing. They're very docile in this state. So that's the hobby of beekeeping, and it's an exciting one, a challenging one, and we need more beekeepers out there to get the bee populations built up again, and hopefully the Harvard study, the USDA study, and all the other studies out there will find a cause so we can save our bees, because if we don't, we are in dire straits down the road. So with that, I'm going to end it. I want you down back there. There's 15 different honeys, and there's 2 of my spring honey and my fall honey, $8. It's a special at all the libraries across the state. It's usually $10, but at all the libraries. There's spring honey you can taste. I got a jar open of each. Taste it. There's coffee stirrers. One side, take 1 honey, then use the other side, and then take another stick after that. And you can taste as many honeys as you want. And where's Lindsay? She's going to instruct on how to do candle rolling there for the people who want to try that in the back. And do a little candle rolling and take the candle home and burn it. You know, if you got your 50th wedding anniversary, some of you, then you might want to put the candle, make some strawberry shortcake, and burn the candle and put a little drizzled honey on pollen on your strawberry shortcake, or maybe bake a chicken with honey, glazed honey, It's just wonderful. So with that, Lindsay probably won't be, but you're going to show them how to do the candle?
Yeah, Lindsay will be back in.
In a minute. Okay. So with that, thank you very much, and I'll take questions. Let's take a few questions here, and then we'll go back there.
I
Yes.
have a question. I'm allergic to bees. So what is it? Can you explain what it is? Is it something in me?
Yeah,
Is it something
it's just your
in
biochemistry, but you can get desensitized. UMass Medical has a program. If we could hold off just on the tasting yet there. UMass has a program to desensitize people that are allergic. Rebecca Knapp, the psychiatrist I was talking about earlier, she got stung. She was allergic. She got desensitized. She works with bees now. Stings don't
How
bother.
do you get desensitized?
It's a 2-year program up there, UMass. Once a month you go and they give you injection, and after that you're desensitized.
Okay.
So look at it, UMass Medical, they have the program. It's well worth it. I think most insurances will cover it. Any other? Yes.
How long does the queen live?
Queen lives up to 2 to 3 years. Then she tends to run out of sperm before she really dies. She can live longer, but she runs out of sperm and she just lays unfertile eggs. And guess what that makes? Drones, only males. Not good.
How long do they live, the drones?
The drones will live in the summertime. They'll live about 3 months. In the wintertime, they get kicked out, so they all die.
When you travel with those, with the hive, does it bother them that you're moving them about?
Yeah, it's a little disturbing to them. They're cooped up. They can't get in and out through their tube, and they're wondering why. But the girls are good. You know, they know that I'm here to help them.
I bought a mason bee hive
Yeah.
from Gardner Supply up in Vermont, and I put it in my apple orchard.
Okay.
I have not seen
Now, it's pretty hard to perpetuate. Bumblebees, you can buy a package of 75,
Yeah.
but they don't get started. Honeybees are the most successful at being able to start a hobby with any type of bees. Yeah, the most successful. You got bumblebees are very tough. Most people bring them in for the greenhouses in the early spring to get early tomatoes in the greenhouses. They bring bumblebees in. Some of them bring mason bees in, but they don't survive. They don't seem to be able to perpetuate.
What do you do with your hives in the wintertime? You
The-
just keep them in your yard?
I just keep them in the yard. They cluster in a big cluster. I put an entrance in so there's not cold air moving in. They only have an entrance this big. And what I do, I don't insulate them any other than that. The hive themselves, and if they leave them enough honey, they're going to be able to generate enough heat as long as they got enough bees. If you got a good queen, she's going to lay enough bees for the winter, so you got a nice big cluster. They can stay nice and warm, nice and toasty at 93 degrees. Better than us. We have to keep it at 68, and we're,
Does the queen move to lay an egg from each cell?
yeah, she goes cell to cell to cell. Yeah, that's why you see all those eggs in a pattern, and it goes in a circle like this, wider and wider. Yes.
We were just in Newfoundland. We came back 2 days ago.
There's what?
We were just in Newfoundland, Canada. Came back 2 days ago. And while we were there, we were talking to someone about bees. And he was saying that in Newfoundland, the bees don't have mites. I guess it's one of the only places in the world.
It must be a very isolated spot where they having to come into contact with yeah, because no matter where, almost anywhere in the United States, bees come in with these packages, they all have mites. So they spread. If I put a hive here in Hingham, by next week they'd have mites, because as they go from flower to flower, mites drop off, another bee comes on that flower, they jump on that bee, and it spreads. You can't get mite free here in the country.
If people want to help bees, what's like the best flowers to plant to help the bees?
Look under honeybee foraging plants, and you'll find a whole list of plants, a lot of them in there. Yeah.
You didn't mention African bees at all.
Africanized bees, they are in, I've been down there in Tucson, Arizona years ago with Dr. Erickson. I went out to the Tucson lab when we were touring down there, and Africanized bees come out of Sahara region. And they came over to Brazil. A scientist thought he could get a bee that produced a lot of honey. He let the queens go, and they bred with the bees there, and before you know it, we've got aggressive Africanized bees, but they can't survive above the latitude of Houston because of the cold winters. They don't cluster, so the cold kills them. So up here we're fortunate, but down from Houston, down in southern Arizona, down in southern New Mexico, southern California, and in Florida now, they seem to like a dry climate. They're not in Louisiana, they haven't found them, or Mississippi or Alabama, because of course it's moist and wet down through there, the Gulf Coast, but in Florida they have.
Can you keep them as hives?
You can keep them, but they're great. You wouldn't want to work with them. I was out there, Dr. Erickson, years ago, and we went into the fenced-in area there, and I'll tell you, they come ferociously at you. Yeah, so, but all the queen breeders down south have to keep making sure they don't get cross-Africanized bees, so they keep replacing any aggressive bee with new milder stock. So that's why the packages coming up are very, docile, because they keep tabs on that. They don't want people getting stung up. Yes?
As they go through different breeding cycles.
They don't what?
As they go through multiple breeding cycles, do they lose some of the aggressiveness? Does that perpetuate through?
The breeding cycle?
Yeah, when they go, like if you go through 8,
Well,
they lose some of the aggressiveness.
yeah, if a new queen gets mated, you don't know what drone she's being mated with. If there's cross-Africanized drones around, she gets mated, you're going to get a mean stock. But then you requeen with a new queen. That's the way we know as good beekeepers. In crowded neighborhoods, you have to keep gentle bees, otherwise people are going to complain. Yes, back there.
So I was living in Italy for 6 months researching the bees post the ban on neonicotinoid pesticides in Italy. And I was wondering, with your research at Harvard, what have they found in regards to...
If you Google my name, you Google Dr. Lou's name, you read the whole published in 2012.
But in general, has it been...
Yeah, well, it's pretty much they're finding. Now, whether it's in connection with mites and with possibly weakening the immune system, and the mites constantly puncturing suck blood, they're vectoring viruses. We do know that, unlike the 50s and way back. So it could be a combination of factors that's at work here, and that's what we're trying. All researchers are trying to find out where is this? Is it I got mites, by the way. Make sure, take a look at all the mites up there. Out of one hive, 77 mites, very high level. So yeah, it is we really haven't delineated, but that certainly is a factor. There's no question.
Only the neonicotinoid pesticides, or are they...
Yeah, well, all of them will kill, yeah, but these are systemic.
Yeah.
So it's in the system of the plant. So it's where you can't wash it off.
Right.
Is there only one queen in the hive? Because I heard sometimes they don't accept the queen.
Well, yeah, queen, if there's one queen, but 5% of the time, there's 2 queens. At the Harvard study, we worked the whole season. We didn't know one of the hives. At the end of the season, I'm getting one frame. Then I'm looking at, there's 2 queens the whole season. That's not supposed to be, but 5% of the time, 2 queens will, if 2 daughter queens, 2 sister queens hatch at the same time, you can often get acceptance, and they'll have 2 queens working the hive. But the majority of the time, 1 queen. If you try introducing a queen with another queen there, they'll kill her.
Queen Mary, second question. 120 hives, how do you manage that? How do you...
Well, it takes a full 12 to 15 hours to go around to manage that many.
Right, so do you keep like a notebook, or are you...
Oh, I have, yeah, definitely have to jot down. So if this one's queenless, this one I say check back in 2 weeks for queen. Yeah, it definitely, when you got that many, it's not the big real commercial with 5,000 hives. They can't do it. They just put an X that marks. But I take notes, and you have to, because otherwise, at the end of the day, and going through 120 hives, you really, you got swarm prevention. You're doing multiple things. Yeah, a lot of beekeepers that have come around with me on my, oh my God, you just lifted like 80 boxes at 100 pounds each. I says, well, I'm only 78 years old, so, but I eat a lot of pollen. And, all right, one more.
Do the bees get mad if you're taking the honey out of their hives?
No, I on a nice day, you go into a hive, shake the frame, put it in an empty box, they just fly right back into it. I shake them right in front of the hive. Just shake it off like that, they fly right in. You know, on a bad day, they'll get angry when you open it up in the hive. It's rainy and more misty, and sometimes you have to, but they don't like it. It's like you, if somebody started letting water in your house, you know, but the bees like it on a nice warm day. You could ask, how many sessions have I done with 150 people out there? No one gets stung. And I've opened up the hive, and the bees flying in between all the people, and it's very docile. So with that, thank you. Try the honeys. Do some candle rolling back there. Thank you.